Great. You can capture all of this amazing content for members later, but the MLK roadway project has gotten underway. And I'm wondering if between, Virginia, you and David can give us just a little bit of an overview about what the project is designed to be doing and any relevant timelines of what folks should be seeing, now and perhaps through the end of the summer. I know it goes longer than that, but I'm just trying to think about, what's going to come most recently for people.
I'll let Virginia get into the details of the project.
Okay, certainly. Well, right now, our contractor is Bow Brothers. And just for a little bit of context, this is a DOTD project, which is federally funded. So this is 80% federal funds and 20% city funds. So we're leveraging some more federal dollars to resurface and address the roadway conditions along Martin Luther King Boulevard from St. Charles to South Claiborne. And so currently what the crews are doing are working on patchwork, which addresses the base of the roadway where there are issues of failure. So they're going through, they're excavating, and they're relaying about 16 inches of asphalt in those areas. So when the patching is complete, which is set to be complete by the end of next week, they're going to be focusing on the high side, which they call as the high side, which is the travel lane closest to the neutral ground and to the median. So they'll be milling that lane completely on both sides, riverbound and lakebound, going from Claiborne to St. Charles. They'll be milling that and then putting a fresh layer of asphalt on the travel lane. Once that's complete, and part of that process is resetting the curb line on the neutral ground side. Just so that you're aware, there's going to be no work done to the median at O.C. Haley. There's an obvious beautification project that was community and city led, and we want to respect that work. We don't have any interest in redoing any work that was already accomplished in that area. So no work to be seen in the neutral ground area at O.C. Haley. So once the high side, as I'm calling it, the travel lane is complete, the crews are going to focus on the parking lane and the lane closest to the sidewalk. And same idea, they'll be resurfacing the lanes and also addressing sidewalk issues and the corner ramps at each side street, making the corner ramps ADA compliant. So in turn, that's the construction sequence, and we're looking to be complete on the travel lane, the lane closest to the neutral ground, by the middle of September. By the start of October, starting on that sidewalk side, travel lane and concrete work. So a big component of this project, like I mentioned, was the ADA compliance on the sidewalks and also the neutral ground crossings. But also we're interested in shortening the distance that pedestrians have to cross to get from one side of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to the other. And we're also introducing a dedicated bike lane on each side of the street. So there are some concessions to that based on the DOTD specs. DOTD did not want to impact traffic coming off of Claiborne and onto Claiborne. So we weren't able to dedicate a bike lane at the approach coming up to about 2 blocks before Claiborne, excuse me. So what that looks like is the travel lanes will be will be as is. There'll be two lanes coming into and out of Claiborne. Also, so after that point at about Magnolia, you'll see as a traffic calming measure, we'll be eliminating one of the lanes. We're going to be shifting where the parking is going to be oriented, and the bike lane will be adjacent to the curb line on the sidewalk side. So as we're approaching the main thoroughfares though, Simon Bolivar and O.C. Haley, we want to maintain 2 lanes for the turning movements that occur at those 2 main thoroughfares. So as we approach Simon Bolivar, as we approach O.C. Haley, heading riverbound on MLK, especially at O.C. Haley, because as you're aware, after O.C. Haley, we are already narrowing to 1 lane. But as we approach O.C. Haley, we'll have the 2 lane to accommodate the turning movements onto O.C. Haley. As we pass O.C. Haley going towards the river, towards St. Charles, the median, the 4-foot median that's existing on that portion of the road will be removed. We're no longer going to have a median area with the concrete barrier. Like I said, it's 4 foot wide. That's going to be removed from the street. It's going to be completely resurfaced, as we mentioned. And we're going to have the pedestrian accommodations, areas where it would be easier to cross, shortening the crossing distance and reducing the exposure for folks crossing Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Some other elements that are of note are there's going to be high visibility crosswalks introduced and maintained at the crossings of the side streets. And what am I missing?
Did you mention the sidewalk, the repairing the damaged sidewalks?
Right. And also, the final portion of this is we're working with Parks and Parkway to identify areas where we're going to be restoring the sidewalks that'll be without impacting drainage, without impacting utilities, areas that we can plant more trees. So that's another component that we're introducing into this project in collaboration with Parks and Parkway. So that's the general framework of this project. We're at current, our timeline has us through the end of February, basically wrapping up and closing out construction on Martin Luther King. I will note that there are adjacent FEMA projects through the JIRR program, the Joint Infrastructure Recovery Roads Program. So there will be some cross streets that'll have work being addressed throughout the cycle of this project as well. But we're working together, the construction managers on those projects and I are working together to make certain we're minimizing any closures and avoiding that as much as possible, to that overlap, so that the contractors aren't working in the same cross street at the same time. But that's the general layout of the project and the timeline to be expected, and happy to answer any questions that y'all might have.
Thanks, Virginia. I'll also note that David has put a link in the chat of an FAQ document based on questions that have come from community to date. And so I'd encourage folks to click that so you have that and you can save it and refer back to it. But I guess I would ask either one of you, are there concerns that have been more frequently elevated by a community that you might want to highlight, whether it's in the FAQ or just in conversation?
I'll let David Lee speak to that. One thing I do want to note, though, before we go into the concerns, because there are concerns being raised, and we want to absolutely acknowledge that, but we're working to understand the implications of the concerns and really put some critical thinking around all the factors that go into the concerns, and not just trying to address it in terms of the infrastructure itself. The thing I wanted to mention is that, as you all know, there's a conventional, we call it conventional bike lane on Oretha Castle Haley, and that means it's adjacent to the travel lane and to the left of the parking lane, as y'all are aware. So what this bikeway along Martin Luther King does is create a connection. This is about connectivity. And because we have the bike lane on the other side of Claiborne on Martin Luther King, that connects to Broad Street. We have a real connection from Mid-City to Central City into the Uptown corridor by connecting to the O.C. Haley bike lanes. So I just want to highlight that, and that's a really big win for us, because we have a lot of bike lanes, and what we consistently hear are that they're singular in nature. They don't connect to each other. They don't provide an actual pathway to get across the city. And so this project is addressing in some way that connectivity. The other thing I wanted to mention is we're going to be building out the transit stops, the bus stops, so that we have more comfortable space for folks to be waiting at, and to have a safe onboard and offboard from the bus at the various stops along Martin Luther King. But I'll let David get into the FAQ and the concerns that we've been hearing from the community.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and for some history, I just want to say, this has been part of a pretty robust outreach and engagement process that started a few years ago with the Moving New Orleans Bikes Initiative. Even though this isn't technically an MNOB project, sometimes we add bicycle infrastructure to other projects where we see the opportunities, and this is one of them. We had conceptual design meetings a couple years ago, and then the pre-construction meeting, and some of that overlapped with the pandemic, and we had some delays with the project. And so when we knew that we were ready to go a few months ago, we kind of cranked up that outreach and engagement process again. And that was kind of why I came on board. I was previously the deputy communications director for the mayor, with kind of a passion for mobility and transportation issues. And so I took this position where we all saw the need for more outreach for the community. Leading up to the launch, we had basically kind of a 3-tier process of engagement, where I reached out to key stakeholders to let them know this was coming, and then started to do outreach and advance notice about the pre-construction meeting that we had ready to go, about both the road work and the bike infrastructure component to it. And then just meeting with residents where they are, making sure that city council was briefed on our overall work, because this was a new city council member who wasn't familiar with a lot of our infrastructure work in general, but the bicycle infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure work in particular. So we reached out to city council, had a couple with them, Councilmember Harris had a couple briefings with her. Had the pre-construction meeting. Unfortunately, that was also at the same night as a town hall that she had convened. So we kind of did a debrief after that. And also after the pre-construction meeting, did kind of a walkthrough with the council member, especially after hearing from some of the key stakeholders we'd reached out to, who had expressed concerns about parking access during the duration of the project, which is a huge and understandable concern for those who live on MLK, but also at least one business owner who's a little bit concerned about loss of business on MLK, but the lack of parking. So I also, on that note, in reaching out to our economic development team, I'm new to RoadWorkNOLA, so I didn't know about this kit, so I was happy to hear about it. There's a road construction toolkit that's put out by RoadWorkNOLA in conjunction with community or economic development. I'd encourage y'all to check that out, because I think it gives people kind of some resources and ideas about how to maybe mitigate some of the challenges that they might be facing without having parking along MLK. So that's kind of a snapshot. Definitely, I would say the number one concern has been lack of access to on-street parking on MLK. There are a lot of side streets where there is potential access to side street parking. There was still some concerns raised about that because of safety issues. There are some older residents, also residents who work double shifts, who are trying to get into and out of their houses, sometimes late at night. And as we led up to the pre-construction meeting, we engaged all of our public safety agencies. So obviously, as you know, NOPD and the fire department have stations right there on either side of the street. Just to that point, we wanted to make sure that they had access into and out of their stations. And so that there were some mitigations on the design of the bike lanes so that they didn't have any problems with their turning radius and access. But in our meetings with NOPD, we flagged this, we all flagged it, that residents are concerned about their safety. A couple things came out of that. One is they agreed to step up their nighttime patrols in that area so that folks can feel safer. Also, we're trying to work on both improving and adding streetlights. One of the things that I thought this engagement has really created was an opportunity to improve the street lighting on MLK itself, possibly on the neutral ground, because people were constantly talking about how vulnerable they feel in the evening as the scene changes on the neutral ground path. So we're both trying to identify and repair any street lights that have been damaged. And we're trying to add street lighting where we can, working with our traffic engineer department inside DPW. So that's kind of where we're at with it. We were hoping, optimistically, I would say, to try and create a situation where maybe residents could park on MLK at the end of the workday and then move their cars to the side streets when the day began. And based on the feedback from our contractor, there were some liability issues that were seriously in play that just made it problematic to try and make that happen. So unfortunately, we weren't able to make that happen. We were all pretty disappointed in that. But again, we're trying to do the best we can working with NOPD, as we do with NOPD throughout the city, as we're doing all of our JIRR projects where people lose access to parking on their street. This is not unique to MLK. As we all know, there's road work going on all over the city in various states of progress. And as we try and move that progress and expedite it with improved efficiencies, lots of neighbors expressed that concern, and it's an unfortunate one for sure. And we're just trying to do the best we can to keep folks safe as we can as we get these projects finished as quickly as we can.
I have a question. Can we go back, Virginia? You had mentioned that where the neutral ground's being removed. Can you reiterate those blocks?
Certainly, it's the median area. Not, I want to have a little bit of a distinction because the neutral ground between Eartha Castle Haley and South Claiborne is going to remain intact. The curb is going to be raised in certain areas. The curb line on the neutral ground from OC Haley to Claiborne. However, between Eartha Castle Haley and St. Charles, there's a 4-foot median barrier that is going to be removed. So you'll have a similar situation to Jackson, and now you'll have double yellow striping rather than a vertical barrier.
David Lee, I'm wondering if we could go back to the lighting. As you were talking, what I'm thinking of are the implications for the merchants and businesses that we aim to support. Is the concern about lighting mostly along MLK where there are those residences, so between the boulevard and kind of like St. Charles, more so than anywhere along OC Haley? So there's not a lot of businesses, there's mostly residences. Is that right?
I think the primary concern is around, I feel like it's more along OC Haley, Eartha Castle Haley, and like Liberty, maybe even further down to Willow. There's just a lot. It's because of the way folks congregate in that area. As you know, during the daytime, it's quite a social scene. people out on the path, talking, chatting, biking up, actually lots of bikes and people on bikes walking up to these gatherings of residents, sometimes older ones. But then the dynamic kind of changes a little bit into the evening. I think that there's concern, I'm just being honest, like there's concern throughout the city when it comes to lighting. It's a citywide issue and a concern that clearly has been amplified as the crime rate and the violent crime rate has increased exponentially through the pandemic. So I think, and we can also just be honest here, sometimes it's sort of a lighting game of whack-a-mole, where if you increase lighting in one area, does that drive behavior into other areas, right? People are going to find their areas, and unfortunately the areas of opportunity. But I think the key is to fix the damaged lighting that might be in the side streets and the rest of the central city neighborhood. But we kept hearing it consistently that there's a need for better lighting along that neutral ground and the parking path. I'm sorry, Virginia, help me get the language. It's the park and path or park path for the neutral ground. I've heard it referred to something else besides the neutral ground. I thought it was called a park path. I think it was.
Parkway, maybe, are you thinking of?
I'll get it right. I'll get my language down right. But I think I'm familiar with what I'm talking about. So that huge, the walk that starts with the MLK statue.
Going towards Claiborne.
Correct.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. The reason that I ask is because I know a couple of years ago, the organization I formerly led on OC Haley had, we had exterior lighting, but somehow the bulb had just blown out. But we had also shifted to like not doing things in person and at night. So like nobody who worked in the building noticed it because we were gone. And there was actually a resident around the corner who said, hey, this corner is really dark. And it attracts people who are just kind of like hanging out and looking for the cover of darkness. And so she had tried to call Entergy. We were able to do that, get the corner light pole fixed, but then we also actually went and replaced all the bulbs all around our building, in the back alleyway, along the front, and it really did kind of make a big difference. So I think if there were like businesses in play along these areas, maybe that's a conversation we could have, because maybe there's lighting that they're not even aware isn't really coming on and illuminating spaces. But I think if the concern is mostly along the neutral ground parkways, then yeah, I think adding more lighting from the city is probably the way to go there.
And 1 block off, 2 blocks off, that's kind of our main area of concern. I also, the good news is, I didn't know this until I dug into it. I believe that a lot of the lighting in that area is now LED. Is that correct, Virginia? So it's a lot longer lasting. And so it's more reliable. It's a different vibe of lighting, and some people kind of took some time to adjust to it because it just looks and feels sometimes differently than the lighting you saw from the previous iteration. So you have a lot more, there's a lot more durability for the lighting, but we still want to get the ones that are damaged repaired and see where we can increase it. I will say this, and this, I'm just, to be brutally honest, as we do that, when we were canvassing, and I forgot to mention, we've done multiple canvassing efforts, both with non-profit volunteers and also the city roadwork team. It's kind of 2 different types of canvassing. One is the outreach, just trying to engage residents about the work itself, to have really meaningful conversations, and then the canvassing itself to say the pre-construction meeting is coming, but also then another canvassing effort to say the work is coming. So we've been on on MLK and the side streets quite a bit over both the last couple months and then previously a couple of years ago. To the point, just being honest, and we talked to NOPD about this, like you see drug deals going down. I saw a drug deal going down literally while canvassing and on MLK in the morning. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning. So it's a dispiriting thing, but it just kind of is a reminder that sometimes that type of behavior can happen when they feel able to pull it off. It's not just a lighting thing. It's just an overall being mindful of the vulnerability of the area as a whole.
One more thing I wanted to ask you about, because I know there are businesses who will be impacted by the lack of parking in front of their businesses, or just the perception that like, oh, the road is torn up, so clearly they must be closed. The document that you shared, the toolkit, makes mention of barricade signs that may be available. Is that something that RoadWorkNOLA is making available in the case of this project?
I can check on that.
Yeah, because I think if we can get a handle on what's available through the city, that could help folks remind their patrons that they're still open. I mean, obviously they have social media and email distribution lists, a lot of them, but also just for somebody who may have heard about a business and wanted to go support it and patronize it, it would be nice to know what's available from the city, and then what are things that perhaps, you know, individual businesses or even we as an association might want to think about providing.
Thank you for flagging that. And I was hoping, I'm not sure who all was here, I'm new to this group, but I was speaking to Allison with RoadWorkNOLA, who was really great to meet her, because she was both excited about having the bike infrastructure put in place, because she's been wanting to get a bike rack at RickRack installed for some time now. She might actually have a grant opportunity, but we're trying to work with her so that it can be in sync with both the grant timeline and the timeline to fix the damaged sidewalk, right? So you don't want to put in a bike rack and then have it ripped up because of the sidewalk being repaired, which it will be on her block. But she had both expressed excitement about that, but ambivalence about the potential for loss of revenue, which led to me finding out about the construction toolkit. Is somebody from RickRack representing on the call? Because I think she said somebody might be sitting in today. Okay, that's fine. But I do think that there are ways that we can be creative in terms of lifting up businesses that are on OC Haley, who if we can serve as kind of a megaphone to kind of leverage our social media, but also try to find ways to collaborate with organizations such as yours to just provide more visibility and more networking. There are a lot of different strategies that I think we can engage to just make sure people know not only are these businesses open for business, but they might need your support and your help during this time. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks into the work, and I haven't heard any complaints from businesses yet. That's not too surprising, because when we give our literature, we always say, contact us. We're at roadwork@nola.gov. Here's our phone number. 9 times out of 10, people just kind of look at the sheet and go, okay, they might stash it, but not really that 9 times out of 10, we usually will hear from a business through the city council member. Most of our concerns have been fed through there. We've gotten a couple roadwork emails, but and that's, I'm just not a complaint. I'm just saying that's usually how we either hear it from, directly or indirectly through the city council member. Haven't heard any complaints from individual business owners yet. It's early in the process. Things happen. But knock on wood, haven't heard anything yet, but as we do, we're just going to keep trying to keep people engaged, but also try and find ways to support these businesses while they're going through this time.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have any questions for David or Virginia? If not, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't have a question. I don't know if I missed it because I was a couple minutes late because summer camp is a thing. But I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Jamie Berry, and I am a community advocate. I'm a doula, and I'm also a community health worker at the Ashe Cultural Arts Center. A lot of the work we're doing as CHWs, we're finding ways to bridge culture with community and, all of that. And so a lot of it will be divided into different zip codes. And I have the zip code that OC Haley 70113. So I'm going to be doing some work with the unhoused, and I'm also going to be doing some work with Black maternal health, all that kind of stuff. So if y'all have anything, feel free to bring me in on it, or, if there's any meetings or anything, I'm here and ready to work.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. Also want to thank. Oh,
sorry. I'm really happy to hear that, Jamie, and I will definitely keep your contact info in mind, because part of, as I mentioned, part of the Martin Luther King construction project is to address multimodal issues, which is more than just people driving in cars. And as the Department of Health is is keenly aware of and actively finding ways to advocate for pedestrian and other multimodal users beyond just riding in cars, people walking, people in wheelchairs, people on bikes, people taking buses. It's become, we're at a public health, and I might be misstating this, but we're at a crisis level of our pedestrian safety in the city and nationally. We're not unique to that, unfortunately. This is a public health crisis we're in, and keeping people safe using the roads who are not necessarily in cars. So Jamie, I would love to get you connected to our Department of Health Representative Jeannie Donovan, and so you could keep a pulse on the work that they're doing in specific to transportation. I recognize your purview is broader than that, but this is where I'm coming in from, is from infrastructure, and that's where my passion is in terms of this work, is increasing the safety levels for everybody who wants to use the road.
Right.
And
it's a big thing. It's so much. I mean, it's so much. But we have a system called Unite Us that we're using. So anybody that you have, and we can encourage some of the businesses as well to contact me or some of the other, there's 10, 15 CHWs. We have a partnership with New Orleans East Hospital, so it's going to be all over the city.
Right.
But we have a system called Unite Us that we're entering people in that need various things, hypertension, whatever they have going on. And then from there, Unite Us will pair them with different organizations that can assist. And transportation is one of those things, because it keeps people from being able to get to their appointments and all of that. So like I said, I guess I'll put my email in the chat. But y'all feel free to reach out or pass my information on to some of the other organizations in the area. And even if they are outside of my zip code or my area of expertise, one of those other 15 CHWs is going to have some, experience with it. We've got some people from brass bands. We have Sonny Patterson. We have a lot of different culture bearers and everything. So we're serious about getting it done. I'm gonna just put my email here, and then, y'all can just reach out whenever you need anything or have something for me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. I also want to thank David Lee and Virginia for sharing all this information. I think there are some takeaways in the construction toolkit that might be a good use for the association to think about in support of the businesses who are being impacted most directly by the construction. I am now going to introduce Sonia, or reintroduce Sonia, who's going to talk through other resources for small businesses. She handles certification for DBEs. And with that, Sonia, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, as when we introduce ourselves, Jamie, Sonia, and Veronica Christmas, we work together in processing the state and local disadvantaged business enterprise certifications. And I know David and Virginia have spoken about, the project's infrastructure, and there's a DBE component, right? The city has a default 35% disadvantaged business enterprise goal on every project that exceeds $15,000. The default 35% goal is there, creating opportunities. I think, Hermione, that it's best to start connecting the businesses in your neighborhood with these opportunities. And I think the first important step that the businesses need to take is to register in BRAS, which is the City of New Orleans procurement system. That's like the first stop for learning of all of the opportunities that are coming with infrastructure. I don't know, I can share the link on the chat, but the BRAS is the budget requisition and accounting system that the City of New Orleans utilizes. So the vendor goes and creates a profile with their personal contact information and the business. And the business has to include what's known as commodity codes. So every code of work that their business performs, attach it. And when the city has an opportunity that's connected with that commodity codes, the vendor in return will receive an email alert letting them know that that opportunity is available with a pre-bid date, time, location. But some of them are now in person. We're moving from virtual meetings to in-person pre-bid meetings. So it's another opportunity, Jamie, also that you can help us as an advocate to connect businesses with these opportunities so that they don't miss an opportunity. Also, tomorrow, the Office of Supplier Diversity and Procurement, we're hosting the 2022 Reverse Trade Show at Gallier Hall. And it's a great opportunity for businesses to come and meet city departments, partner agencies, and other partners. As small business development agencies will be there, and Mayor Cantrell will kick off the event beginning at 8:30 and ending at noon at Gallier Hall. And Hermione, I can send that information because an RSVP is required. We still have capacity. We can meet capacity so people can sign up. Very exciting because businesses will have the opportunity to come and talk to members of capital projects, public works, sanitation, and they will in return let them know what opportunities are coming, like real-time opportunities. And this is what's coming out to bid. Instead of waiting for that email from Brass, you will meet the department heads or their designated personnel to be hand in hand and to learn about what other agencies, because I'm going to circle back to certification. The SLDBE certification is not only accepted for City of New Orleans procurement, other agencies utilize and accept the certification as well. We have a partnership, a CEA agreement with the Water Board and the airport. So the Water Board is also a recipient process of those certifications, but also the New Orleans Convention Center, the Orleans Public Schools, the Port of New Orleans Public Railroad, Hano, all of those agencies. So there's multiple opportunities for businesses to connect. And the importance that the certification holds is that it connects you, it puts you in that directory, which is another layer of information, right? We have Brass certification, but then if like on the Martin Luther King project, Virginia was saying that Bow Brothers is the prime. Bow Brothers is well-versed on public procurement, so they know where to go and seek for small businesses is the directory. The SLDBE directory is at neworleans.dbesystem.com, and that's where our application is also housed. It's an online application. I know we can go all day talking about certification and opportunities and how to connect. We don't have a lot of time, I know, for time's sakes, but tomorrow, people engage, we will be there. We can further discuss all these opportunities, but it's very important to register at Brass. If you want to be on the SLDBE directory, to be considered and to learn and network for opportunities, visit neworleans.dbesystem.com, create a vendor account, and apply for the SLDBE certification. I do want to, because it's interesting how the Water Board and the City of New Orleans are working together on infrastructure, and Veronica and I are working on certification, but the Water Board is also on the field, with the City of New Orleans DPW working on infrastructure. So I do want to Veronica to go over the process at the Water Board.
Well, with Sewerage and Water Board, we do utilize the same vendor listings because of, we handle the certifications together. However, when Sewerage and Water Board's projects, the difference is one of the things that the way we handle our projects is that our DBEs, if they are performing as a prime contractor, because I did hear you say I think it's two different projects. One of those projects could possibly have a DBE that is a prime contractor, but with Sewerage and Water Board, that DBE who's performing as a prime contractor will still need to utilize another DBE vendor, whereas the city, if they're a DBE performing as a prime contractor, they don't have to utilize another vendor. Sewerage and Water Board, we do believe that the purpose of the program is so that we can help those small businesses become larger prime and capable of performing as a prime. So we want to continue in the format of, if you are a prime, you need to utilize another DBE, so it's helping to help those other firms to grow, as businesses, as well. But we do encourage all of the vendors to register with different agencies, because the city of New Orleans does have BRAS, and you learn about the opportunities with BRAS, whereas Sewerage and Water Board also has a vendor
I think we lost because of
the registration list, and every agent is with. Hear me?
I'm hopeful she can pop back. Veronica, we lost you for a chunk there, I think due to some internet issues. I am wondering, in the time we have, if you and Sonia could just let businesses know, what is it that they need to be prepared with? What do they need to be able to demonstrate to obtain certification? What is that application process like? What kind of documents might they need to have? Oh, perfect.
Sure. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Trying to, just moving slow. Okay, can you see the certificate, the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just to give you a quick overview, our program is based on gender neutral. We do not presume social or economic disadvantage. So the burden lies on the applicant. And we utilize the SBA business size standards limits for the business. And ownership, the business must be at least owned 51% owned by a socially or economically disadvantaged individual. And again, the business size is determined by the SBA size standards. That does change, so we're constantly looking and making sure that when a business newly applies or reapplies, they are within those limits, and it must be an independent business. So not-for-profits businesses can apply, and the business must be controlled by the disadvantaged owner that's seeking that certification. They must have the power to direct or cause the direction and management and policies of the firm. And the application, it's 100% online. There's only one document that includes a notarization, which is the affidavit, that you can download that document, notarized, and upload into the application. It's a simplified process, fully electronic, and the vendor can track when they submit the application. When we start processing the application, and once it's approved or denied, they also received a notice. And this is a quick overview of the certification process. DB application received. We review the application. If there's anything missing at that moment, we can return it for updates. The vendor is notified. They resubmit, we re-review. If it's okay, we accept it. If all the documents, everything's aligned and everything's okay, we go ahead and we schedule a site visit. We were, prior to the pandemic, conducting in-person site visits. We would come to the location of the business. If it was an office space, a warehouse, or a home office, we would come schedule a site visit just to get to know the business. For me, that was the most exciting part, because like I always, with Veronica, we always say that we know them in paper, but not in person. So that gives us an opportunity to see the small businesses in their element, which is, it's exciting because you see an entrepreneur, right? Working hard and making their dreams come true. And the certification, after the site visit, we issue what's known as a in-house recommendation to move the application forward. If approved, the applicant will be notified via email with a confirmation. There is no DBE certificate. It's a letter stating that they are certified, and we list their NAICS codes and, you know, the business, a description of the work that they perform. If the application is denied, a letter is sent via email explaining them of the denial, and we have a process, an appeal process. We do have a SLDBE appeals committee. It's compromised by expert matters on the field, which are our partner agents. The small business, the applicant is asked to come meet with them on the committee. They go over the process, and by a vote, the committee makes a decision if they are to be approved or if the denial is upheld. The applicant has 10 days to request an appeal from the date that they received that notice. And the renewal, it's a yearly certification renewal. The applicant receives an email notifying them 45 to 30 days prior to the expiration date. And the process is, it's a smaller process than the first certification. They're submitting financials for the last 12 months, contracting history for the last 12 months. An affidavit is required, a personal net worth statement, and that's when the applicant also has the opportunity, if there's any changes within the structure of the business, to let us know so we can, conduct that review. And this is the link to the certification portal or the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise System. And this is what the screen looks like once the applicant is ready to move forward with the application. As you can see, it's compromised by 7 sections. It's actually 8 sections.
Sonia, we're still seeing your PowerPoint, sorry.
Where?
The certification, the requested documents.
Oh, that's all.
Yeah, I think you clicked to a website and we're still seeing the PowerPoint, but
let's see.
If you want, I can stop the share so that you can.
Let me see.
Okay. Let's see.
Do you see it now?
Yeah.
What is the application?
It's the screenshot. We're seeing that it looks like a
We're
screenshot.
seeing slide 5.
Are you on the main summary, certification application main summary?
We're on slide 7 now. You're on slide 7.
Okay. So yeah, that's where I was on discussing what the vendor sees. So it's 8 sections. 7 is mostly about the contact information, business profile, business information, about the owners, management, contracting history, and then it's the documents list, which is what Hermione, you had asked at the beginning. This is a summary of some of the key documents that the applicants have to upload with the application, along with the application. Again,
And then
the
if folks have questions, I was just going to say, if folks have questions, who do they reach out to and how?
yes, I will share that information. So it's Veronica and myself. And we can type that on the chat as well.
Great. I want to open it up to see if there are any questions in the few minutes that we have left about the process, about the benefits, how to start, what's required, who to get in touch with. Sonia, is it possible to have a copy of the presentation and we can send that out to people?
Yes.
Okay, I am. You've got my email if you want to just send it to that. That works out, and then we'll get it out to everyone. Before we jump off, I want to thank everyone who presented today. I also want to remind businesses and organizations that we do have a survey that we've had open for about a month. I'm looking for feedback from folks about how best the association can support your businesses and organizations. If there's anything you heard today that prompts more questions, please let us know. You can reach us at info@ochaleyboulevard.org. I will put that in the chat. Great. The last thing we always do is we open it up for any sort of announcements. So if anyone's organization or business has any event or program coming up that you would love to share, please chime in now.
Ashe has events all the time. There are a lot of things going on this weekend for the Juneteenth celebration. They're celebrating Big Duck, and then a lot of things with Essence coming up and the Ma'afa celebration. So you can just go to vchristmas.org. That's probably the best place to just look at the calendar and see what all is going on, what your interests are.
Awesome, Jamie, thank you so much. Anyone else? Well, if not, thank you everyone for joining us.
I'll just add real quick that for folks who don't know, Ochamba has still been working on an historical marker program. We have 3 more markers that are fabricated and partway permitted to be installed. And then we're actually be working with DPW and some of your colleagues to get that final permitting done. And then we hope sometime this summer, when it's maybe brutally hot, to have a really nice ceremony, and hope to have community folks as well as city officials come to recognize the installation and commemorate those important markers.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yes, Jonathan and Melissa Lee on the board have been working, it feels like forever, for many, many months, to get not only 2 new historic markers approved and fabricated, but also to arrange for the installation of a total of 3 that we have. The O'Haley corridor is very historically significant, and we're so glad that we've been able to get these markers fabricated to denote that. So do stay tuned for more information there. Anything else for the good of the order? All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you, Sldb.
All right.